Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, and welcome to the updated guide for how to beat the Wood Elves Grand Campaign. I made the first version of this guide, my third Warhammer video, in January of this year, 2017, and unfortunately, due to a lot of patches in the between months, some of the strategies and stuff that I talked about are no longer viable, and I have gotten a multitude of requests to update the guide and a lot of questions and such about it. So I'm going to make this updated version of the guide, and hopefully it will help all of you in the wake of the patches between then and now. So I'm going to format this video as such. We are going to start by going into technology. After that, we're going to go into buildings. Then we are going to go into the overall goals of the campaign. After that, we're going to go into securing your provinces, and then we're going to end off at early game strategy, and I'm going to put all the necessary timestamps in the description below. So let us start off with Wood Elf technology. Nothing has really... my apologies. Nothing has really changed since my last video. Technologies have relatively stayed the same. Overall, you're going to want to start off going for Isha the Mother to get past the early growth gating that the Wood Elves suffer from. After that, you're going to want to go for Mathland Lord of the Deeps, as it will be quite difficult to secure your other Wood Elf provinces early on, since military conquest is less of an option, which I will go into later into the video, in the securing your provinces segment. So getting a lot of ports and having plus 400% income from ports makes your ports worth about 500 gold pieces every time you capture and build up one. So if you can get a lot of ports, you'll get a whole ton of income, which can help you build up your strength rating and secure alliances with other factions. Then, until you have the building to build to research Kurnos the Hunter, you're going to want to just go down this line. Now, in the campaign, you're going to want to get a lot of amber. I'll go into why a little bit later, but to do so, you need alliances and such with other factions. You either need direct control of provinces or military alliances and vassals with other factions that have a lot of settlements. And the dwarves are usually one of those factions. They usually stomp the greenskins and get like 30 settlements. So therefore, going for plus 40% or plus 40 diplomatic relations with dwarf realms from Azarian the Creator is a really good technology to research. So you're going to want to get on building the Temple of Kurnos pretty quickly, and then research this technology. You also get minus 40% construction cost for all buildings, which is really nice, and plus 20% income from all buildings, which is also really nice. Now, some other notable techs we're going to go for if you're struggling with public order in a lot of your provinces, maybe a lot of beastmen romping through and getting up chaos corruption, or a lot of raiding from various factions. Getting Loic the Trickster might not be a bad idea. Nirthu, Keeper of the Last Door, or Nethu, Keeper of the Last Door, rather, gives you plus 30% income from raising, which is a huge buff considering Wood Elves gain a ton of their money from raising. Like, I've gotten like 92,000 gold on a raise. It depends on how upgraded or how many buildings they have built in a settlement and how upgraded those buildings are. You can get a ton of money from raising. So just boosting that even further is nice. And it's only 1 amber too. Now, there's 2 other techs that work really well together. You get Atharti, Lady of Desire, for plus 4 global recruitment capacity. Since Wood Elves can actually only build outposts, they can only build actual settlements in Wood Elf buildings in Wood Elf territory, which is only in Athel Loren. So there's 4 settlements that they can build actual buildings in. Otherwise, they can colonize everywhere on the map, but they can only build dinky little outposts, which provide negligible buffs. So therefore, unless you're in your main settlement, you're not going to be able to be recruiting. So if you're on a campaign halfway across the world, it's going to be pretty hard to refill your army. Getting 3 units every 2 turns takes a very long time, and so researching these 2 techs is a huge remedy to that. Atharti, Lady of Desire, gives you plus 4 global recruitment capacity, and then Sithare gives you minus 1 turn for all units in global recruitment. So that means that in 1 turn, you'll be able to have 7 units in your army, which is going to be amazing. And with how bonkers the Wood Elf AI or the Wood Elf economy gets after you've secured all the provinces, it's not going to be much of a penalty to you to recruit 7 in 1 turn. Also, Kadai here, plus 30 diplomatic relations with all factions, helping you secure more packs, boost more relations, with other factions and such like that. And then also I will note that Isha the Mother gives plus 40 diplomatic relations with Empire provinces. And since the Empire, after the most recent patch, which makes them, which gives them control over their whole starting province, they no longer have to deal with the rebels. They actually can get decently strong, and they usually have quite a few settlements. So getting alliance with them will be hugely helped by this tech here. All right, and I will also note that after you build the required buildings to research these technologies, and then you finish researching these technologies, you can destroy the buildings afterwards. So if you've already researched these and then you destroy the building, it's not like they're going to suddenly, take away that research. You still get that research, so you can then destroy those buildings afterwards to get more space for what you need. Now, I will note, though, that these buildings do provide a few small buffs, and if you do delete the buildings, or destroy the buildings, rather, you do lose those small buffs, so do pay attention to that. But overall, other buildings will be more useful, especially when you've only got one settlement. So destroying these buildings after the first, after researching the technology is a pretty good idea. Buildings. So now for buildings. Not much has really changed in the buildings either. Initially, 100% of the time, you're going to want to get grapevines. Plus 800 income a turn is ridiculous. So yes, grapevines is the first thing you're going to want to get. You only have one building slot, so that is what you're going to want to be building right away. And let me just research this tech. So that's what you're going to want to be building right away. Once you upgrade your main settlement chain building, you get access to these two building slots, and generally you're going to want a garrison building to start off. I'd say the two garrison buildings you could build right away are either going to be your guard platform or your forest walls. You definitely need at least one garrison building, and if you're planning on using some of the strategies that I'm going to present in the early game campaign, or the early game strategies that you can use, both of them would be even a better option, since you've only got one main settlement you can build off for a decent chunk of the game. You definitely don't want to lose this. So getting two garrison buildings, I would recommend these two over this one, since it only gives 2 units extra, and this one gives 4, and then some pretty good units as you go up. And this one gives plus 10 melee defense while under siege, plus 10% reload time reduction, plus 10% ammunition, plus 100%, which is crazy. And then the minus 20% hero action success is not really all that useful until later on, where more heroes start getting recruited and you start getting invaded by powerful forces such as like chaos. So yeah, if you're going to build 2 garrison buildings, I'd recommend building these 2. If you're going to build just one, typically I go with the guard platform. And then the other building you can get is, it can be up to you. I'd say the 2 options right away would either be your forest walls, or it would be the trapper's den for extra growth. However, because your early game economy is usually pretty bad, the extra growth might be wasted, since your money won't be high enough to actually upgrade your main settlement chain building that often. But it's up to you. I've done it a few times and I haven't noticed that it's that bad. So yeah, you can choose to. I'd either choose to go for a second garrison building or that, or the trapper's den. And let's see here. So what else can you get? So after those first few guarantees, it's really up to you. Avoid building the wineries or the vintners, barrel houses, until you actually own things in adjacent provinces. I am pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure, this actually does not affect regions it does not affect the parent region that you build this in. So if you only have one province and one settlement in that province, which the Wood Elves do, in Talsin, they only have King's Glade. I'm pretty sure it does not give you plus 20%. And even if it did, there's more power. There's better buildings you can build than plus 20% income. You only want to start building these as soon as you capture adjacent provinces. Then you can really stack up those income buffs. So you're going to want Eternal Guards with shields, so your front line can hold better and not get shredded by missiles. Thus, an armory is not a bad idea, as it does allow recruitment of the Eternal Guards with shields. War Dancers and Wildwood Rangers are not really necessary early on, so avoid wasting much needed cash on getting these guys. Eternal Guard will suit your purposes just fine, especially if you've got the shielded variant. Getting the Glade Guard Hide, which is right here, and also getting the Boyer Workshop is also a pretty good idea. because it gives your force some armor piercing for to take down strong Bretonnian cav and other armored units you might be fighting, like Minotaurs, say, when Beastmen stacks start getting pretty strong. And you don't really need the other archer units, since Glade Guard are actually quite strong. They've got very good range, they've got good damage, they've got a very high unit count. So they're going to suit your purposes just fine for the most part until the very late game. So I'd suggest just staying with the Glade Guard hide. You don't need to any of the Deepwood Scouts or Weight Watchers unless you want to go for some really cool like ambush comp where your whole archer corps is hidden and then suddenly they all pop out of nowhere. Although be aware that the Deepwood Scouts with the Swift Shiver Shards do have less of a range. The Wild Rider building here, Grove of the Horse, and upgrading the armory so you can unlock Wild Riders with shields is also not a bad idea, as the AI tends to spam a lot of ranged units and cavalry, cavalry, ranged units, and artillery. So having cavalry to deal with all of that spam is going to be very useful for you. So other notable buildings that are non-military related include technology buildings, as aforementioned, Temple of Aerith Keel and the Temple of Kurnos to unlock those techs. And you can, as I said, destroy those buildings after you have researched technology, although be aware you will lose the small buffs that they do give you after that. So plus 5% campaign movement range and plus 10 Winds of Magic power reserve. And some very notable buildings here are going to be the office positions. And as you may or may not be aware, the elves do indeed have the Elven Council. Anyways, this is for Orion. For Durthu, they've got like Forest Council. I don't remember what it's called, but something to do with the forest. It's basically the same thing. So you've got, Protector of the Oak. And if you don't want this lord here that you have assigned, if you have a very important lord and you don't want them to die, assign them to this position so they can't get assassinated. Minus 50% hero action success chance is ridiculous. So they're basically never going to be able to get assassinated. So if you have a really important general, put them here. This is for potentially, if you've got an army that's staying around at home and just guarding your place, you can put someone in the Elder Speaker so their army can passively gain experience per turn and slowly level up. But the two most important buildings here, I would say, out of the 4 other ones you can build would be, because these ones are unlocked by default, but these ones you need the buildings for. So if I go back into building browser, you can see the 4 buildings here all the way over on the right. So there's the War Dancer Feast Halls, the Starlight Forge, the Wildwood Waystones, and the Wild Heath. So each of these has their own little buff, but it's the council position that's really going to be important. So the first one I'm going to say is the War Dancer building, so War Dancer Feast Halls. This unlocks trade with non-Wood Elf factions. Initially, you can only trade with your Wood Elf brethren, and as soon as you take control of all of the Forest of Athel-Loren, you're not going to have any Wood Elves to trade with, so you're going to want this War Dancer Feast Halls to start trading with other factions around you. And then another huge one is the Wild Heath here. This unlocks the Herald of the Hunt Elven Council position. So this allows the leader assigned to the council position to go on a wild hunt, bringing massive army buffs and big raise bonuses. I believe the raise bonus is plus 100%, which is ridiculous. The wild hunt occurs for the general who holds the office position. The first wild hunt will occur the turn after the general is assigned to the position and lasts for about 10 turns, after which it goes on cooldown for a number of turns before triggering again. So if you only have the one army led by Orion, which is very likely since you can't get your second army for quite a while, you can replace him like so to take advantage of this Herald of a Hunt. Say you're about to raise a string of settlements and you want that plus 100% raise bonus, you can go into your hero panel here and click Replace Lord, and you can choose another Lord to replace him and throw that Lord in the Herald of the Hunt Elven Council position, allowing you to take advantage of those huge army buffs and massive raise bonus that you do get. In all cases, though, make sure you initially assign a general to the position right before you raise a string of settlements for maximum profit. So this could be like, for example, a conquest into Estalia over here, just as you're about to go to war. You want to get all those massive army buffs, and then you're going to raise all their settlements so you can get a ton of money from that. So stuff like that. You don't want to assign him to Herald of the Hunt and then sitting around 5 turns building up an army while your Wild Hunt wastes away, because then it's likely to disappear before you get the full benefit from it. All right, so overall goals. As the Wood Elves, your goal is to build up the Oak of Ages right here to level 5, at which point you need to beat a bunch of Beastmen stacks. They are scripted to spawn, and they spawn, I believe, around here and around here. There's 4 stacks, I think. And after you beat that, all of them, you have to win a final battle at the Oak of Ages, a final quest battle at the Oak of Ages, which I believe is like right here, or here, just somewhere around the Oak of Ages. Now, to upgrade the Oak of Ages, you need a resource unique to the Wood Elves called Amber. Amber is earned in 3 ways. Firstly, direct control of settlements. So 1 amber for minor, you earn 1 amber for minor settlements and 2 amber for major settlements. And Wood Elves can capture any settlement in the world. However, as I said, you can only build dinky little outposts. So you can see next to the settlement name how much amber you will earn from capturing and occupying this settlement. So capitals, for example, will give you 2, and then little minor provinces or minor settlements will give you 1. The other way you can earn amber is through military alliances. You gain 1 amber flat for each settlement owned by a military ally. What do I mean by flat? Well, flat means that, let's say I take over Val's Anvil. I will get 2 amber from that. But if I am militarily allied with Torgavon, I will earn 1 amber for every settlement they own, whether it is a major or a minor. So if I'm allied with, let's say, Carcassonne over here, they've got 1 major and 1 minor, which is over here. If I were to capture both of these settlements, I would gain 2 plus 1, 3 amber. If I was allied with them, militarily allied, mind you, not defensive alliance, I would only gain 2 amber, 1 for each settlement owned. So do note that you don't gain the same amount of amber from direct conquest versus military alliance. And then third is basically very similar to military alliance. It's vassals. So you get the same amount of amber from a military alliance that you do as if you vassalize one of the factions. However, here's some things to note. If you have the resources and the faction in question is not a superpower, it is a better... military conquest is a better option than a military alliance or vassal, or making them a vassal, because you get more amber from controlling their territory than from military allying yourself with them and or vassalizing them. So not only is this because you gain more amber, but military alliances and vassals can drag you into a lot of unfavorable conflicts, and you definitely don't want to get dragged into conflicts with, for example, the Empire or the Dwarves, since those will be your massive amber pools in the late game when you manage to ally yourselves with them. So you don't want to ally yourself with some dinky low-level tribe like, I don't know, maybe Carrick Norn over here, only to have the Empire or the Dwarves for some reason declare war on them and force you to defend them. Otherwise, you become unreliable or untrustworthy for a number of turns, which would be really annoying. So, yeah, definitely, it's more safe to just directly occupy. However, if you lose the settlement, you lose the amber. So, if you come over here and capture all of Carcassonne and are unable to defend it, then you may find that Beastmen Stack something will come in here and raise these settlements to the ground, or you'll get declared war on. Some other people will come and take these settlements, and you will lose that amber, which can, if you have already spent the amber, force you to go into the negatives. And what that's going to mean is penalties faction-wide. So the first penalty is rather dumb, or not really dumb, it's not really significant at all. It's minus 5% casualty replenishment rate, so that's not really a big deal. But later on, it becomes something like, actually, I don't really know since I haven't been that low on amber, but after -5, I think, is the end of the minus 5% casualty replenishment rate, and it becomes much, much worse. So you don't want to go too negative into amber. -1, -2, -3, that's not that bad, but as soon as you get below like -5, it's going to get really bad. So be very careful. Make sure you can defend all of the settlements you're conquering if you're doing it strictly for the amber. Otherwise, it might just be a wiser idea to military allies, since at least then your military allies will have forces to defend those settlements. So, as I have mentioned multiple times, the most reliable way to gain access to huge pools of amber is to secure military alliances with the Empire and Dwarfs, since both factions typically control a large amount of settlements. But be patient. Wait until you get the technologies that boost relations with them. And don't be discouraged or continuously flood them with gifts if they refuse to accept it on the initial turns you're offering. So don't feel like, oh, the dwarves declined my non-aggression pact. I'm going to spam them with money for the next 5 turns and hope they accept. Be patient. A lot of the time, they won't want to accept because you're not very strong. So maybe build up your army a bit for the purposes of getting an alliance, and then maybe disband those units that you just built to get your income back up. So note that it's not just relations. It has to do with strength rating as well. So be very careful about that and be patient. And also note, you can afford to be patient because as the Wood Elves, you don't have to worry about fighting chaos or destroying factions. Your end game goal is just to build up the Oak of Ages, beat those Beastmen stacks, and win the final quest battle. So that you are in no rush to get things going like fast. All right. So now, securing your provinces. The Wood Elf early game is quite challenging, but once you get the ball rolling, it's almost impossible to stop you. Usually this starts to happen when you start capturing other Wood Elf provinces, such as Torgavon, Arguelon, or Widrioth. So this can be done in 2 ways. There's military conquest and there's confederation. So let's first dive into military conquest. This was the more favorable option previously, and the one that I normally did when I played the campaigns. Moving in and taking the other provinces by force can be fast, cost-effective, and it doesn't force you to have your Oak of Ages at level 3. Because, do note, a lot of people get confused by this, there's a reason you don't have the Joint Confederation option initially as the Wood Elves. You need to get to the Oak of Ages level 3, so Oak of Ages budding, until, you can see on the left side of the screen, enables the Joint Confederation Diplomacy demand. So you will not be able to join a confederation with the other Wood Elves until level 3 of the Oak of Ages. Now, however, after several patches, CA added the Isolationist trait to all Wood Elf AI forces, so they no longer leave their bases except on very rare occasions. So they almost always have an 18-man garrison and a 20-man stack or 20-unit stack after a few turns. So it's pretty dang hard to conquer it with only one army, which is normally what you have in the early game. And even if you've got 1.5, it's a pretty dang tough fight. So be very careful, especially as they have stuff like tree men and such. So if you do want to go to war with them, it's going to be really tough, especially also because Torgavon and Widrioth typically militarily ally. So you attack one, the other's going to get drawn into war with you, unless a way to get around, getting the other military ally into the war is, let's say Widrioth is at war with another faction that's not Beastmen. I can say, let's say they're at war with Carrick Norn. I would be able to offer Carrick Norn, and I would be able to say, I'm willing to join war against, say, Arguelon here, if that was the other Wood Elf faction. So I could offer to join war against Arguelon, and if Arguelon was militarily allied with anyone, those military allies would not be called into the war. A declaration of war is which calls your allies in, and in that case, it's not a declaration. So if you are going to go for military conquest, see if you can get in without drawing both allies in. But for the most part, after those few patches with the Isolationist trait, I found it dang near impossible, especially on very hard and legendary. And yeah, since the Wood Elf income early on is pretty spotty, military conquest is typically not an option unless you're playing with mods to make the Wood Elf AI more aggressive and get them to leave their base. Since what used to happen is Durthu would go on a crusade over here to kill Beastmen stacks. There's 2 Beastmen stacks at the start of every game that spawn here, and they'll always world route, or whatever it is, Beastmen Underway, whatever the heck it's called, over to here, and will either come this way, or this way. And Durthu, all the time, would come down here and crusade against them, leaving his base open, which would allow you to actually hop in and take the base. But no one really does that anymore, so it's a lot harder. So now, I would say the more favorable option is Confederation. In order to confederate, as I said, the Oak of Ages has to be level 3. And to get the to get the other Wood Elves to accept confederation, you have to have both good relations with them and be quite strong. So getting strong will take some time, and the path to doing so will be gone over in the section on early game strategy. However, to start fostering good relations from turn 1, you want to start constantly asking your Wood Elf allies for non-aggression pacts, trade agreements, all of the like. So in this case, they want they're offering to join war against the Jagged Orange Tribe. They're nowhere near us. I mean, 100 gold is almost nothing, but Jagged Orange Tribe's nowhere near us. You're likely not going to see them for quite a while. So you really don't need to accept that. Now, what I have done in previous versions is I think it was like 400 and they accepted. Yeah, you can pay 400 and get them to accept if they deny right away. So we can do that over here. We can try it initially. They're going to reject. But if we offer a nice sum of 400, then... No, I don't want to do that. Come on. Give me it. Give me the alliance. Give me the alliance, Patriot. I am done with you. Okay, we'll do 450. Nope, they reject. Unfortunately, Widrioth is not feeling the love today. And that might be just because they are a little bit stronger than Torgavon. But I wouldn't go much over 400. You don't want to waste too much money early on, especially because you're going to need it. And Durthu will typically accept right away on the first turn. So you want to get those good relations up really, really quickly so you don't have to worry about, let's say you raise a province and settle it, or you raise a settlement and then settle that settlement, and your strength rating drops really low. You don't have to worry about spending a million turns to get back up to full strength and then still have to build extra army units to get them to still accept just the non-aggression pact. Get it going early so you don't have to worry about it later on. Now, avoid military alliances for the most part to avoid getting called into wars until you are really close to confederating. So, until you've got the Yoke of Aegis level 3 and you've got really good relations with them, avoid military alliances. You just want to use them to get that last little boost to good relations so that they'll accept it. Make sure you're at a high strength rating and you are able to confederate before you accept a military alliance. Otherwise, you might get called into dumb wars with the Empire or the Dwarves, which could really screw over your late game or make it take a lot longer. You definitely don't want to get into a war with the Dwarves, so try to avoid that at all costs. And now, what most of you have probably been waiting for, early game strategy. So, we've already done some early game moves here. Unlike the other video, there's actually 3 strategies I can put forward to you here. The first 2 are very, very similar. The other one is actually not that similar and quite unique. I haven't personally done the third or the second option, but I have been told by friends that have played on Very Hard and Legendary that they do work. So don't take, well, I guess you can kind of take my word for it, but my friends have tested it and they say that it works. So the first 2 strategies involve invading Carcassonne. The last strategy, not the second, involves invading Broken Nose over here. So typically what you're going to want to do to save some movement is you're going to want to move Orion here in the direction of whichever person you're going to be attacking. So I'm going to move Orion over to here so that he's ready to invade as soon as he builds up his army. And now previously in the other video I suggested running 2, 2, 3, 3 as in terms of your 4-turn recruitment. So I was like, oh, to maximize profit, I think it should be 2, 2, 3, 3. So you recruit 2 units, recruit 2 units, recruit 3 units, recruit 3 units over 4 turns to build up your army to about 17, which is when I would start going on a conquest. But there is actually a more efficient method. I have run the maths, and the more efficient method is 1, 3, 3, 3, and this was noted by someone in the comments of the first video. Typically, you're going to want to go with Eternal Guard first in your army, not only because they cost less, but because their upkeep is less. So you're going to save yourself even more money if you get the Eternal Guard first. So if you go 1, 3, 3, 3, that brings you up to 10 units total recruited. I would say 6 of those should be Eternal Guard, 6 or 7, and then 4 or 3 Glade Guard, respectively. So start off with just 1, and then 3, 3, 3. So now we've done the first turn. Let's end our turn. So we'll just let all of the turns go by here. Get ready to hop back in. So now let's scout a bit with Doden over here. And now we want to go 3. So let's get 3 Eternal Guard. Let's see if Widrioth likes us a little bit more and wants to accept a non-aggression pact. They initially reject, but let's see if we can offer, how about 300? They do accept. So yeah, as I said, be patient. Don't spam 600 gold to get them to accept on the first turn when you can send them 300 gold on the next turn. Because the problem is you can't really wait forever, though. You'll probably have to send them a little bit because they're going to sit at like -1 with you for quite a while. Unless you go on a slaughterhouse of beastmen stacks. So I would suggest, just to get it going up early, maybe just do a little bit, like say like 300 to 400 gold as your maximum. And if not, kill some beastmen stacks, join some wars with them, and then wait till you can get the alliance with them. But don't rush it. Don't send them like 700 gold to ally with them. So now we've done basically all we can. We still have our research going. We've got our winery, or our whatever the heck it's called, building up. So now let us end the turn. Alright, so now let's just put Doden in the army, since he'll help us a little bit. Now, one of the biggest changes to the AI is in my last guide, I said you should ambush around here. Now, unfortunately, after the Bretonnia update, Bretonian factions are a lot less aggressive. If I ambush here, they saw me disappear somewhere around my base, so they know I'm probably in range, and therefore they're not going to attack. And for the most part, they will never attack. They'll only attack under a few circumstances, and that's either you disappear in these directions, and your garrison isn't ridiculous. So I'll go into that soon, but we've got a recruitment going again. Getting up to 15, and then we're going to do one last recruitment here. And unfortunately, we don't have enough for the last Glade Guard, so we're going to get just one more Eternal Guard. So we'll boost our forces up just a little bit more. We've got our relations boosting with these guys. And eventually they'll want to accept a trade agreement. I am strength rank 4. It might not be a bad idea. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Scrap that. So we're just going to end turn once again. Yeah, so for the most part, Carcassonne actually will never attack you. Now, you will notice there's the Beastmen stacks that were down here, and they're just going to go off in random directions. They're not really anything to worry about with your major settlement. You'll be able to hold them off. They're not huge stacks. They're only like 7 or 8. We're going to say, yeah, boost our treasury a bit with that. So now, here's where the different strategies take place. So, Carcassonne will almost never attack you. Even if you're in march stance, you don't have many armies, you go next to, or close to them where they could attack you, they still won't attack. So they just sit in this base, which makes it really hard to draw them out. And therefore, the first two strategies are going to be relating to how to draw them out. So let's go into our technology, just get Vol the Maker real quick here. Let's check our allies, see if they want any trade agreements, and they might. They do want a trade agreement. So yeah, check every turn or every other turn, see if they want any trade agreements. Unfortunately, because we're not bordering Argolon, we can't get a trade agreement with them. Maybe they want military access. No, let's see if we can, with our newfound money from that event, bribe them into it. No, we're not. And I'm not going to go much more above 300. So now let's end our turn again. Typically, what you want to do is time it, or actually, I'll go into that soon. But let's just move forward a bit here. Great Council plus 1,500. And that'll always happen on turn 6. You'll get the Great Council for extra income. So this is typically where you're going to want to be. So in order to draw them out, you're going to need to do 2 things to Brionne. There's 2 things you can do to Brionne. The way that I personally play is I will typically attack. Well, you'll attack it either way, but I will typically attack and then seed Brionne. So rather than raising Brionne, I'm going to seed. It gives about 5k for a raise, but I don't need the money that badly right now. So I'm going to seed Brionne. And then what I can do is after seeding Brionne, I don't believe Carcassonne is going to move, so They might try and come. I don't think they're like really not that aggressive. Yeah, they're just gonna run this lord away because they're like, oh, we're about to be attacked, and then this main army will not move. Yeah, so they'll just stand there. So I will typically seed it. So once we get into the attack here, since this is a guide and not a playthrough, I'm not gonna play through the first battle. I'm just gonna auto resolve because it's a very easy win. They've got a really wimpy garrison. So here's where the two different early game strategies come in. The first two differences. My friend that plays in Legendary usually raises this. I typically seed it. So if you seed it, what you can do is the next turn, you can come over to here, around here, and lay an ambush. And because Carcassonne is in range, and they're like, I've got a really wimpy garrison, it's like 5 units, and they're going to be all at like a quarter health at the start of the next turn, they're going to be like, all right, let's go over there, and then you can hopefully get the ambush off on them. Otherwise, they'll probably be, if you screw up the ambush, if you don't get it, unfortunately, due to the random RNG of it, you'll probably be in range to attack them. So then you can wipe Carcassonne there, move on to Brionne, and then finish, or move on to Carcassonne and then finish them off. The other strategy is to raise Brionne, and if you raise Brionne and then come over to here and then set an ambush here, then what they'll actually do is, rather than trying to recolonize Brionne, they're going to move up here and charge at King's Glade. This is what my friend on Legendary told me. I believe the same happens on Very Hard. I don't have confirmation since I don't normally try it, but hopefully they do the same thing. They're going to charge up here to King's Glade. Now, with that second strategy, you're going to want your King's Glade to be quite highly upgraded, definitely not the 9 troops it has right now. So then typically in your initial phases, you're going to wait here a few more turns so you can get to the point where as you attack Brionne, your 2 garrison buildings that you're going to build are 1 turn away from completion. So that's when you're going to want them to build, so that right when they're next to it, about to attack, your buildings upgrade and you can win the garrison fight. And you can also, for extra buffs to the odds here, you can also recruit a lord. So you can recruit an extra lord right before they're about to attack. And then you win that battle, and then your other army over here can come over here, take Carcassonne, and then you beat Carcassonne. After that, because of your technology, where Mathline Lord of the Deeps for plus 400% income from ports, what I typically would advise is running down this way and going after Astalia. So take Bilbali, take Magritta, and then take Tubaro, probably raising them for huge income bonuses. What you can typically do, what I would do, is come over here, seed Bilbali, come over to here, lay an ambush. Their main stack, that's typically in Magritta, comes over here, gets caught by the ambush. I believe there's a 70% ambush chance somewhere around here. It's like somewhere on the, 70%, like right around this forest here. So you can ambush like right here where the 70% chances. Hopefully you win the ambush, smash their army, charge forward, finish it off, take Magritta, and then they've got nothing left, and you go over here, raise or take Tobaro. So yeah, and then after that you can possibly go after Tilia. Problem with Tilia is their main garrison here actually has like 18 units in it after not too many turns, and then they've got like a full stack in it, so it can be very hard to take. I normally don't go after Tilly just because of that, but if you do manage to take the garrison, or take the city, or raise the city or whatever, not only will you get massive gold from raising the city, especially if you have the Wild Hunt buff active, but it's actually one of the special Wood Elf relocation points that you can unlock, which gives you like some significant faction-wide buffs, and also has like a strong garrison with a forest dragon and stuff in it. So that would be nice. That's Moragliano. And then you come over here, take the other settlement, and then maybe you can come over, declare war on the Border Princes. And if you manage to take out all 3 factions, that is like 8 ports, and that's going to be ridiculous. 8 times like 500, you're going to be getting like 4,000 income. And at that point, you can build up a ton of armies. You could then go for military conquest if you wanted to on the other Wood Elf factions. Otherwise, you'd be strong enough where they'd be willing to probably accept almost anything. So yeah, there's the strategy, and you're going to do that in both cases, whether you raise Brionne or seed Brionne. You're going to want to try that in both cases. You're going to want to go after Astalia afterwards, since Carcassonne will be wiped in both cases. So what is the third strategy? This is the one I haven't tried before and haven't heard before. But what you can actually do is build up your army. You can sit around here, build up your army, and go over the mountains and take out the first broken nose. settlement, which right now is owned by Clan Angren, so you have to do it pretty quickly. And then you can come over here and take their other settlement, Zarak-Zil. You can then build one of the outposts, which gives plus 25% casualty replenishment rate to get your forces up to par really quickly. And then what you could do is you could either go after Tilia, you could go after their one port, Lucini, down here, or you could actually come after the border princes over here and take their ports. They're going to be roughly on par with Estalia, with not like massive garrisons, but it shouldn't be too bad to take over. Be aware, though, border princes are typically can be allied with the dwarfs very early on, so be careful about not getting too many negative relations with the dwarfs, lest they declare war on you, and then you're going to be struggling. Carcassonne will never attack you, and that is because they don't have vision here. They don't know where you are when you're close to... So they don't know where you are. So if you disappear in this direction, or this direction, or this direction... they don't know where you are and thus are not going to attack because you could be around King's Glade setting an ambush or something. It's the same reason why, as I mentioned before, they won't attack you if you ambush here. So yeah, they won't ever attack you. You can go over the mountains, you can come over here, maybe secure peace with Carcassonne because they won't attack you, and you can do anything over here and Carcassonne will not attack and you don't have to worry about King's Glade. So yeah, there is a third strategy that you can employ. I typically use the first strategy that I mentioned, where you seed Brionne, ambush here, take them out, take Carcassonne. You can raise Brionne, ambush here, they go to King's Glade. You have to wait a few more turns so you can get up to the double garrison buildings, and then you win the battle at King's Glade, come over here, raise Carcassonne, and then you can, in both cases, send your armies down to Estalia, take them out, get all those sweet juicy money from the ports. And you can also do the third strategy, which is, I think it's a little less efficient. I don't think it would be the optimal way to go about increasing or getting rolling early on, but is definitely a very creative and interesting option that you can do if you want a more varied campaign. So yeah, once you capture all those ports, and get a ton of money, you can secure alliances with... You can work on getting technologies to secure alliances with, like, the Empire and the Dwarves and your fellow Wood Elf allies, and then work on confederating them and getting the Amber to upgrade the Oak of Ages until you get to the final quest battle and win the campaign. So, yeah, that is going to about wrap it up for how to beat the Wood Elves Grand Campaign on very hard or legendary difficulties. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions, you want any further clarification, if there was something I didn't expand on as well and you want me to expand on it further, go ahead and put that in the comments section below. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm definitely going to be making more of these guys. I think this is going to be the staple of my channel, since it's kind of a unique thing that not many people actually do on YouTube. I like casting multiplayer battles, but it's done all over the place and it's not really that creative or anything. So I'm probably going to try and move to just doing like campaign strategies and stuff and tips and tricks and stuff like that rather than casting multiplayer battles. I'm still going to cast some, but overall I want to move to this kind of style since this is a unique and creative thing that I enjoy doing. It takes more time, so expect more delay in between videos because I have to actually play through the campaigns multiple times and figure out what works and what doesn't. And then I have to write up a script because I don't have to script my multiplayer battles, but I have to script these so I don't mess up and convey the right things to you guys. But expect a lot of these in Warhammer 2 because I'm definitely hyped for Warhammer 2. I'm going to be playing Warhammer 2, so expect some of these for Warhammer 2, and I'm very excited to do it. So yeah, I would like to thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers, guys.